The summer of 1993 means more to U2 than just the release of the Zooropa album. It's actually the band's 15th anniversary. They formed in the summer of 1978. So much has happened with U2 in those years that one can't help but wonder how the band members' personal relationships have survived. Edge?
Well, I think it's changed a lot over the years, but the fact that we're still friends, I think, is probably the most extraordinary thing, and the thing that keeps it being fun, and the thing that keeps the creative life of the group alive. And it's probably more fun now than it's ever been, because I think everyone's a bit more relaxed about the trappings of being in a rock and roll band. We're not as worried about making a wrong move, and we're not as embarrassed about the practicalities of getting around in planes and having road crews and set up your gear, all that sort of stuff that seemed so strange at the beginning. We're actually now, I suppose we have a clear vision about what it is to be in a rock and roll band, and it's really much more straightforward now. We're interested in writing songs and making albums and doing shows, and really that's it. Everything else is pretty much irrelevant.
I mean, I hear sometimes, if I hear some of our old records on the radio, I hear a kind of tautness and a kind of aggression, and I wonder where it was coming from. And then I realised that coming out of Dublin, Ireland, in the early 80s, with no real map or support, created a kind of shoulder-to-the-door type mentality and a kind of defensive mentality, which came across as aggression. And I'm really thankful that's over with, and you're no longer fighting for your actual life, you're fighting for your musical life.
We've got a lot more ground to cover with U2, and we'll be back in just a moment to talk about the band's home turf of Ireland. So stick around.
Sunday Night Alternative, Ed Shonkey with you here, a special edition tonight, the U2 interview special from Westwood One Zooropa 93.
Special look at the current state of the art of U2. Desire, one of the studio tracks found in U2's Rattlin' Hum release, and its first single. That album was connected to a film project which in large part documented the group's exploration of America, both as a touring band and as fans of American roots music. When work on the movie was completed, the band came home to Dublin, Ireland for a festive world premiere of the film. In some ways, U2 are national heroes in Ireland. And in other ways, the hometown crowd is actually tougher in the band than in other parts of the world.
Irish people don't really care too much about success. Irish people are judged, and I don't mean this in a corny way, I really mean it. It's not really, how much you've got in your wallet. It's more, about how much you can drink. No, it's more about you're fun to be with or something. I mean, what am I actually trying to say? Right, the English invaded Ireland, okay, 700 years ago, okay? And we've had this twitch ever since. And when we see Mr. Success coming in a limousine, we think they're English. They're not us. Or if they are us, they've collaborated against us. And so we have a problem with success. Let's just put it out in the open. We don't like it. We're nervous by it. And U2 has a problem of scale in Ireland. And, as much as they celebrate U2's success, they also beat us up about it. And I think that's actually fair enough. It's just different in America. People, they love to be successful. I mean, there's a story, I'm sure I've told it before, about the mansion on the hill in America. The guy looks up at it and he goes, one day I'm going to live there. In Ireland, the guy looks up at the mansion on the hill and goes, one day I'm going to get that bastard. That's the kind of, that's the biggest mistake you can make in Ireland is to patronize somebody, and to lay it on thick. Like, would you agree, Edge? It's like, that's not where we're coming from at all. Like, we live in Ireland. There are many reasons, practical reasons for living in Ireland. I think the most important reason is that is where our friends and our family are. Somebody said to know somebody, you must know their memories, something like that. And I think that there's some very important connections for us that go back 10 and 20 years. That's certainly what keeps me there. And I like, actually, the Irish attitude to success, because I think it's more healthy.
In Ireland, they like you in spite of your success, not because of it. I suppose
There
that's
you
the
have it.
difference.
I'm Carter Allen. This is Westwood One's summer radio special honoring the current album and tour, and we'll be right back. We're spending time on the radio with Bono and The Edge, both of U2, and both currently on the road in Europe with a major tour that will wrap up next week in their hometown of Dublin. We've been talking a lot about U2's music and a lot about their philosophy, but we haven't spoken about one of the main features of U2's sound, Bono's voice. Not long ago, a European music journalist said that in recent U2 music, Bono's vocal approach is to, quote, fly in low under the Edge's radar. Bono, Edge, any reaction to that?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting way of describing emotionally. I mean, essentially, as a singer, I guess, though I haven't the voice of one, I have the instinct of the opera singer. I was losing my voice a lot the last tour, and so they got a tutor. And she, listened to the tapes, and she said, well, of course you lose your voice. You can't sing like that. And there's notes you're singing here that, you should only sing once a night, and you're singing them like 3 times a song in certain songs. Pavarotti and all those opera singers, I mean, they only do that note, once or twice. And with a bit of luck, everybody just boo-hoos and gets it all out and goes on happy. But I think U2's work is at best when the sort of swells and the kind of rises of the music are suggested and are about to break, but never are allowed break.
Bono is the kind of the secret weapon, and we only really use him rarely on an album.
I'm Carter Allen. We're catching up with U2, and we'll return with an in-depth look at the group's current tour right after this. And now finally, Zooropa 93. Edge, Bono, other than the name changes, how has U2's tour evolved recently?
We now are thinking about music as an audio-visual thing, that the combination of imagery and music can be more than the sum of the parts. What we've actually started to realize is that there's much more here. It's almost like this is just the beginning. I think that you can really take this much further.
The record companies are all panicking because people have stopped buying records and started to buy video games. And there's a reason for this, and that's simple. Records are very boring at the moment. Rock and roll at its best is a trip, it's a roller coaster ride, you get lost in the record, it takes you to another place. We've tried to make such a place in Zooropa. But the other thing is that rock and roll should mutate, and when it stops, it becomes stagnant. And technology has always run parallel with rock and roll, going back to the original fuzz box, right the way through to drum machines and samplers which created rap and all the rest of it. Now, music seems to want to take on board after MTV, and MTV's been very important in this, people seeing music as well as hearing it. I think now that's going to be a part of the fabric of it. It's not going to be just music anymore. It's a new format is developing. And we like being where the ground is going from under our feet. It's a great sense. It's great. You have this feeling that you're at this precipice and that nobody knows what's at the bottom. But it's just, at least you're moving.
We're talking Zooropa tour with Bono and Edge. And on the current tour dates, Bono has introduced a new stage persona, a character, if you will, and his name is MacPhisto. Bono had been appearing as the Fly, the prototypical rock jerk, or the Mirror Ball Man, but now he's gone so far as to wear little red horns and basically be the devil. It's not just a costume change, it's a change in the message being delivered to the audience.
The character that we had on the Outside Broadcast tour in the US, that came out in the encore, the Mirror Ball Man, the preacher stealing hearts at the travelling show that sang Desire in the big mirror ball suit. When we wanted to bring that character to Europe, we said, well, will it translate? Will people get that kind of evangelical zeal? Because they don't really have TV evangelists in Europe. So we're thinking, well, who is this character that we've been playing in essence? And I guess in essence, he's the devil. So you go then into European myth and literature, and you come up with Faust and the character of Mephistopheles. So MacPhisto is just a less pretentious way of saying, the devil. Great thing about MacPhisto is I can now shoot my mouth off about South Africa, about Sarajevo, about the rise of neo-Nazism, and I'll get away with it because people are laughing. They don't even notice that I'm getting my point across.
It's a license for you to be yourself as well, though. That's what I find interesting. Is through the characters of the Fly and MacPhisto, although they appear like the least like Bono, the man, I think in a weird way, it's also a way of revealing certain parts of your onstage persona that couldn't come across in the straightforward manner.
You've been working with
I've been
too
talking
long.
to my analyst, and he's been filling me in. One of the central ideas of Zoo TV is that it should be literally drawing stuff down from the ether, satellite broadcasts, but also I think reflecting what's going on around, because it's a very immediate thing. You know, the electronic media is driven by news, information, and you know, that's what we're trying to comment on, and that's what we're drawing from. So there is a big difference between what we're doing on this Zooropa tour and what we did on the Outside Broadcast tour. And the major difference is that we're now playing in Europe. What's going on here is pretty astonishing. I'm referring to the rise of xenophobia and the rise of fundamentalist political ideas, sort of ultra-right-wing neo-Nazi movements. What's happening in Yugoslavia and Bosnia in particular is an obvious example, but it's happening in Italy, it's happening in France, it's happening in the UK, it's happening in Spain. So I think that The Fly, as the rock jerk, and MacPhisto as the sort of sad, bad last pop star, they're both characters that Bono's been able to use to say sometimes some very revealing and serious things.
We called Mussolini's granddaughter, who's a leader of the new right at the moment. We called a mafia. We called a jail to get through to one guy who'd been busted in the Italian government. He has the mafia. Another night we called a Swiss banker who was rumoured to have a lot of dodgy gold in his vaults. In Germany, there were a Turkish family burned alive by a Nazi gang. Helmut Kohl didn't turn up at the funeral. He felt this was a fluke, which is a big mistake for him to have made, pretending that everything was normal. So we called him from the stage every night, and we hassled him.
Do you know who Helmut Kohl is? He's becoming a very good friend of mine. Shall we give him a telephone call?
Bundeskanzleramt.
Hello, I'd like to speak to the Chancellor Helmut Kohl, please.
Es geht leider nicht.
Hello, could you help me? I speak English.
A little bit, one moment.
Thank you very much, you're so very kind.
Na? Hallo.
Hello, my name is Mr. MacPhisto, and I'd like to speak to Helmut Kohl, please.
Oh, Helmut Kohl is not an office.
He's not available?
No. Helmut Kohl is not in the office.
He's not in the office.
Yeah.
I see. I had that feeling. Tell me, could I leave him a message?
Message? What is your office?
My name is MacPhisto, and I'd like to thank him for letting me back into the country.
Yeah, please, you telephone Monday. Okay, thank you.
You're a very kind gentleman. I haven't been here for a while, but I'm back.
Ultraviolet, Light My Way, the song that punctuates the poignant live semi-prank phone calls that Bono makes from the stage each night on the Zooropa tour. This is the summer of '93 U2 Zooropa radio special. I'm Carter Allen, and there's still more with U2, so don't go anywhere.
U2 Zooropa 93 radio special presented by Westwood One.
Sometimes, if you want to see a great concert, you just close your eyes. Sometimes, if you want to travel across the world, you just turn up your radio.
But after afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Dublin.
The biggest concert in radio history.
Sometimes you're right.
U2 in Dublin. And if you don't have a seat on the plane bound for Dublin, don't worry. You'll still get to experience it. As 94 WYSP brings the concert to you on Saturday, August 28th at 3 p.m. Get ready.
All the things that rock and roll was always good at.
U2 live. Historic homecoming concert, Zooropa 93, Saturday, August 28th at 3 p.m. And you will have the best seats in the house. And there's only one radio station big enough to bring it to you. The classic rock station, 94 WYSP.